Hi, and welcome to our JavaScript course. JavaScript powers the web, and in this course, we're going to be showing you how you can use JavaScript in order to power up your web applications and do some really cool things. We're going to be covering JavaScript language and the fundamental core concepts of JavaScript. You can also explore the course, jump to different lessons as needed. Tools and resources used in the course are also provided, and also we're going to be providing you how to set up and prepare to write JavaScript. So that's going to be all covered in the course and progressively increasing in complexity as you go through the course. The course is modular in design, so of course you can skip to lessons as desired. Source code is also included, and it is encouraged that you do take the code and try it out for yourself and get familiar with what you can do with JavaScript. The course starts with the basics of JavaScript, progressively gets more complex as you build on your coding knowledge. Resources and tips are provided throughout the course when appropriate. You probably already have all the tools that you need in order to write and run JavaScript. And if you don't, you can use an editor such as brackets. So if you already have an editor on your computer that you are familiar with, you can go ahead and use that one. And I am going to be using brackets within the lessons of this course. So if you want to use the same one that I'm using, you can go ahead and download it from brackets.io. Also, the browser that I'm going to be using is Chrome, and we're going to be making use of the developer tools that are available in Chrome. If you're not familiar with the developer tools, we are going to be using them throughout the lessons, and every version of Chrome has them installed, so you can really easily utilize those as needed. The lessons are laid out with the editor on the left-hand side, the browser on the right-hand side, and the developer console from the browser opened up in the bottom corner. And as we go through the lessons, we're going to make use of all three of these different screens. Resources and reference. So if you want to find out a little bit more about JavaScript, there's an excellent resource at the Mozilla Developer Network. So that's the MDN documents. You can Google for that, as well as you can follow this link on the Mozilla Developer Network. So everything you need to know about JavaScript is contained in there, and we are going to be covering the core fundamental concepts, so you can reference that if you want to find out more. There's also a great code converter. So if you are using older versions, and if you've got some code that's one of the newer versions of JavaScript, you want to convert it to an older version, there's an excellent resource at babel.js.io. And also, if you want to be familiar with compatibility, because JavaScript runs in the browser, so there have been updates, and not all browsers, unfortunately, update at the same time. So some browsers might have compatibility for newer JavaScript and others may not. So there's a compatibility table also available here, which is a great resource if you want to find out if different methods are available. And of course, all the core JavaScript will work across browsers, as we are going to be covering in the upcoming lessons. So there's no frameworks, there's no JavaScript libraries included in this course. This is all pure JavaScript, and it's going to really show you what JavaScript can do. So for now, the lesson challenge, and we're going to be wrapping up this lesson. So what I want you to do is set up your developing environment so you can dive right in and start writing code in the upcoming lesson. And if you are working online and if you can't download an editor, there's also excellent editors such as CodePen.io that you can utilize in order to write code directly within your browser, and you can save it and then reference it later. And of course, the editor that I'm using is brackets. So I'm going to do a quick walkthrough of what's available at CodePen. The way that CodePen works is whatever you type in the left-hand side, and of course you can change the view, gets output in the display area. So you've got HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. You can type in an alert, and whenever you render it out, you can see that the JavaScript gets rendered out immediately. So if you have any changes, it will constantly render out. And you see that this is one of the JavaScript methods that we're going to be covering in the upcoming lessons, but it shows you that it does render that out. There's also brackets.io, so this is brackets. You can download it, so you can utilize it if you're on Windows or Mac or Linux. So there's different versions for each one, and it is a really great, powerful editor. It's an Adobe product, so pretty cool. So go ahead and set up your developer environment and be ready to write some JavaScript code, because that's coming up next.